know, except one reporter. I tell you story.
Welcome back to Boys Bible Study, the podcast where we've balanced our budget. Okay? Our checkbook is balanced. We have accounted for everything going in and out. And none of these deficits that you hear so much about nowadays. Not us. We're responsible boys. I'm Ash. I'm here with my co-hosts,
Scott
and Julian.
Well, boys, what a mess we got ourselves into this week, huh?
Wasn't my idea.
I wish it wasn't my idea.
I mean, I guess I sort of found it. I think I'm pretty sure I put it as a possibility for a couple weeks ago, and we turned it down, but thought it was still intriguing enough to pursue for this. I mean, it's a good meme, Julian. It is a very intriguing movie. There's a lot I want to say about it. Was it the most fun watch? No, but sometimes you have to eat your veggies, you know?
Yeah, if it was fun, they wouldn't call it work.
That's true. But no, our movie today is called Creed of Gold, 2014 film. And finally, we are back in the libertarian zone. Or if not libertarian, then at least the economic zone. This is one of those very special Christian films that is not just explicitly Christian, but also has much to say about our society, if you will. It's all about money at the end of the day.
Cream.
Yeah.
Yep. Like Wu-Tang said.
So Creed of Gold. We found this one on YouTube on one of the classic Christian movie channels, Encourage TV. We're glad we did. I want to point out that the first comment, if you look at Creed of Gold, like I opened my phone to it, and the first comment says, "Lies in the media, truth in the movies."
Damn,
right? I mean, that's really what this podcast is all about. Like, we found like the only media with a good, wholesome message, and we're trying to combat all the lies in the media. But it's also just like amazing to think of someone watching this movie and like having an emotional reaction to like the truth.
It's like those songs we were watching afterwards, and like the Stone Sour song and the Kid Rock song, and they were all like,
yeah.
Everybody was like, just cried listening to this. Like, it's amazing what resonates with people who comment on YouTube videos.
Completely. Yeah, we were talking about the phenomenon where you find a song on YouTube, and you might either think it's okay, or even if you like it, you'll realize that everyone who comments on it is all coming from a particular state of mind that you didn't expect. Like, there's this Kid Rock song that I love called Only God Knows Why, which is like an auto-tune ballad that he made. And, the song's just like about whatever. And all the comments are like, 4 years off heroin, like never thought I would get this far. Like, 3 years off OxyContin, never thought I would get this far. Like, blah, blah, blah. Like, for some reason, it's everyone in America's like opiate withdrawal song, which I guess makes sense. But it's just like, it's crazy to see like a piece of media resound with so many people in an unexpected way. So I guess there are like a bunch of freaks out there who will just like sit around and make popcorn and watch Creed of Gold. Like, is that imaginable to any of us?
It's hard for me to imagine.
I agree.
I can picture it.
Why not?
You go to the more remote parts of the country, I can totally picture somebody like some compound. This is one of the only movies that you can really watch if you're like all about the gold standard and libertarian stuff.
Yeah.
It's true. We're going to have to cover Alongside Night next week.
Yes. Ooh, okay. I'm glad we brought that up because I want to get into that movie. But I will say that I agree. Like, I could see like some family that has their like end of days compounds, like a billionaire family. Like, for instance, the family of billionaire Gary Heaven in his movie Amerigeddon, which is one we covered early on the show, which involves Gary, who in real life is a billionaire. Basically, the whole movie is just like him marveling at how prepared he is for the apocalypse because his family has like a safe room and a getaway helicopter and shit. And I could see that family sitting around and being like, let's watch a movie with a real message. How about Creed of Gold?
Yeah.
You know?
You got the Sibian hooked up to the generator. Hop on that thing, throw a movie on.
Mm-hmm. Sibian's for the whole family too. But yeah, it's the Sibian with like that's on the surge protector with the backup generator. Like if the power goes down, the Sibian will stay lit.
Oh, I was imagining like you riding the Sibian powers the.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah. It's got like pedals on it.
They researched
some little belt,
some alternative fuel options.
Yeah.
And that would be very interesting because it combines like, you know, treadmill powering light bulbs with like orgone energy. Like I think that could be a potentially very powerful source of alternate energy.
If you got your Sibian in the orgone chamber.
Oh my God. That would be unstoppable.
I should write like a cloud rap song that's like the lyrics too.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, maybe you out there, you or someone in your family is a billionaire and you listen to our podcast and watch Creed of Gold in your panic room. You know, you might be the type of person who enjoys this movie. But Scott, you brought up Alongside Night, which we have yet to do for this podcast because it's not as Christian as this movie.
Right.
And, you know, maybe that's a mistake. I mean, there is a connection because the Sorbos produced it. You know, Kevin and Sam Sorbo produced that movie.
That filmmaker is definitely Christian. He just went really hard into his corrupt financial system brain and
right.
Got not lost in that necessarily. Well, yeah, definitely. But
he did, but that was the point of the movie.
I mean, not much God comes up to it. Yeah.
Right.
The movie's good. It's just not as we would have covered it sooner if there was a more prominent Christian message in it.
Exactly. And, you know, maybe it's not off the table because it's fascinating. Alongside Night is like, it's been a while since I watched it. So maybe I'm like romanticizing it in the past and I'm hyperbolizing here, but like, that's at least a top 50 movie for me. Like, I've never seen anything like that before. Like, it really changed the way I saw of the possibilities of DIY filmmaking. But Creed of Gold, there are some similarities to it. And I feel like potentially with our knowledge of both of those movies, we might be able to make some claims about what libertarian filmmaking looks like. Because I think I picked up on some stylistic things that libertarians seem to like. One thing I noticed is that in both movies, there's a lot of people watching TV in the movie, which is something I don't frequently see. I feel like, now I only have 2 movies to go on here. I feel like in a lot of libertarian movies, we watch people watching TV that says informational things on it.
Yeah, it's always like fake CNN. A little redundant there, right? It's like some fake CNN thing with like stock footage of like soccer game riot or whatever, and it's like panic in the streets.
Yeah, and it goes on for a long time, and the characters are just sitting
while the
there
opening
watching
credits are overlaid on it. Yeah. And we're like pulling out to some sort of like dinner scene or something, or an office.
Yeah.
Or opening the gun you got for your birthday, like in the Reliant.
Now, I don't know if this is in a lot of these movies, but also the like the establishing shot where we like pan slowly across something, but then they use whatever editing plugin makes it like speed up really fast in the middle and go like it was used a lot in this movie, and it just felt like a very libertarian thing.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I can't quite put my finger on it, but something about that felt very libertarian. It's like there's like an emphasis on some like technical filmmaking, but it's all deployed in like a very weird and wrong way.
Yeah.
It's like, well, because here's the thing. I feel like libertarians are the type of people who watch tutorials. You know what I mean? Like they learned how to do some cool like pan editing speed up thing in a 95-minute like Final Cut Pro X tutorial they watched, and they deployed it in an absolutely bizarre way. The other thing that I feel is like kind of libertarian about this film, well, more than kind of, is that, well, first of all, both of the films Alongside Night and this one star teens, which is interesting. And the teens are so logical, like hyper logical to a fault. to the point where I'm like, good God, I would never want to hang around these people.
Yeah, they're insufferable. They all act like white men in their 50s who are concerned about the federal deficit.
I think
you're like an idiot for not caring about fiat currency.
Yes. Yeah. No, I agree. I think that you said this last night, Julian. You were like, I feel like every teen in this movie talks like a guy in his 50s going through a divorce or something like that. Like, yeah, your ideal like protagonist or like the ideal mindset you can be is like, no matter what demographic, age, anyone you are, you're basically like, yeah, an upper class, middle-aged white guy. I think that's what equality means. So these people, it's like they're not like racist. Like they like black people, white people. They have no problem with women, no problem with younger people, like anyone. I'm sure. Hey, they're libertarians, right? I'm sure if you're gay or transgender or whatever, you live your life, but you can only act like one particular way.
Yeah,
right.
Doesn't matter what color your skin is, as long as you think and talk exactly in this way.
Yeah.
And then you're good.
Yeah.
That's something that's something I felt like watching Creative Gold, because of just like the bizarre way that all the different characters like saw the world and interacted.
It's also in a lot of these movies, like all the characters have to hate each other.
Yes.
For no reason. Like there's no chemistry between anybody except for like total condescension and sarcasm towards between every character and every interaction.
That is such a DIY movie thing.
Particularly the main characters who claim to be friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they're all like, you're doing that?
Yeah.
Ugh. And the guy's like, I have to do that.
Well, why don't you let me try it my way?
Yeah.
Yeah, now we did it your way. Now let's do it the right way.
Exactly. Yeah. The whole fucking movie. And that, I mean, I feel like that's a very DIY filmmaker thing in general, because that's what everyone equates with being smart, is like everyone just being sort of snarky to each other.
Yeah.
Where did everyone learn this? Like, is there like a piece of media that is their Bible in this? Like, I just want to know where that came from. I might not have an answer.
I don't know. I feel like Marvel movies are like that.
From Gramps.
From Gramps. Yeah. Yeah. Gramps went to college, so we didn't have to.
Gramps was their RA.
Yeah. At Havenhurst.
My dorm Gramps.
Yeah. I was actually joking because this is our back to school month to our listeners.
Is it really?
I mean, sure. Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, we covered Gramps Goes to Go. 2 weeks ago, we did Chloe Mountain, which is about a girl reluctantly going to Bible college. Last week, we did Gramps Goes to College, which is about a grandpa very willingly going to college. And this week we have Creative Gold, which is about several teenagers attending college because it allows them to play the game of life.
Is that what they said?
There were so many times in the movie where they were like, it's just how you play the game. Like in the beginning when that one girl was like, he's a smart guy. He just doesn't know how to play the game.
He's a smart guy. He just doesn't know how to play the game.
This is an 18-year-old talking about another 18-year-old.
Yeah.
Which is like so psycho. Like beyond psycho to me. But maybe we should start introing the movie. Are there any, before we get into the characters, are there any like production oriented things, cast, crew, like anything we found that was interesting?
I was just looking at the director's other work in general. He has some good titles. Some
like
other
what?
Ones I would be curious about. Dinosaur Cove. That's the
Oh.
most recent one. A Horse Called Bear.
Okay.
And Skydog. Those are the three that popped
Oh,
out to me.
Sky
He stars in
Dog.
Skydog. He was only 26 when he made Creative Gold.
That's pretty precocious.
I believe it, because
Isn't that crazy?
every single person looks either like their college age or they're parent of a college age person.
Right. Yeah. There's definitely something there. Skydog looks pretty cool.
It does.
Looks like he stars. Yes, he
Yeah,
does. He directed and starred in that one. He's a cool teen with some. Well, he's in his 20s. Cool 20-something with sunglasses and a dog. Skydog.
His parents founded the production company.
Oh,
Oh, they did?
Yeah, his dad is a former airline pilot, I believe.
Is that Mark, his father?
Yeah.
Because Mark
Knudsen.
wrote Creed of Gold.
Okay.
He's
that
credited
makes
as the
more
writer
sense.
of Creed of Gold. So it's his airline pilot dad being like, now listen, kids, I got a movie for you. It's about the Federal Reserve. Can you get some like sexy teens to act in this movie about the Federal Reserve?
Yeah. Yeah, he was a commercial pilot for 35 years before founding Crystal Creek
Crystal Creek production company.
Pictures, Crystal Creek Media.
Mm.
And like you said last night, he was flying the plane that the Big Bopper, Buddy Holly, and Richie Valens were on while they were investigating the Federal Reserve.
Yeah. The Big Bopper, and they were hiding a terrible secret because they knew about the Board of Governors that were secretly rigging, the Federal Reserve. And I just imagined Big Bopper busting into the Fed going, "Hello, baby."
Oh man, I wish that happened in this movie.
Me too. Jesus Christ. They knew too much. They were men who knew too much. Yeah. So we have a father-son duo, which is very exciting. Can you make that much money from being a commercial pilot?
I think so. I don't even know if it was commercial. He could have been
You at least
private.
could until recently.
Right.
Yeah. 35 years. Who knows what else he did,
Yeah, he might have investments.
It was a little hard to get information about these people
They're off the
outside of
grid.
their own biographies.
Moving things on the plane, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Moving two planes full of silver
Yeah.
to an undisclosed location in the USSR.
Yeah.
We need the flight logs.
Yeah, we need to see Mr. Knudsen's little black book, and that's on God. So this takes us to this dynamic father and son's feature film, Creed of Gold, 2014. A movie about a Russian immigrant teen who came from nothing in order to attend the prestigious Havenhurst College.
The inner city.
He came from the inner city. I love that.
And I quote, "In the inner city where I grew up, if you didn't join a gang, you most likely died by one."
In the inner city where I grew up, if you didn't join the gangs, you most likely died by them. But once you joined, it was a life of despair and loneliness and hopelessness.
What was the context of that?
He was
Just flexing on a girl he had a crush on.
basically, from what I can remember, the context of that was essentially just talking about how
His gang was all about going back to the gold standard.
yeah. I think that was sort of early on in Kirsten and Adam's relationship when Kirsten was having a little bit of culture shock because of Adam had to do things like work at the library.
Right.
That was very like foreign to her.
Didn't they refer to it as manual labor?
Yeah. There was a little bit of like intentional
funny.
snark in that, but she was still like, "Oh,
Sure.
very becoming of you to be doing manual labor." And, he said some gay shit back to her, I'm sure.
Yeah, he was refusing to accept her offer to cheat on their term paper.
Right. Yes. Adam is a hardworking, second generation Russian immigrant with a heart of gold, a creed of gold, you might say. And, he learned his morals from a troubled family history. The film opens with a bizarre, tearful monologue from his Russian mom. Do you think she was really Russian?
Hell no.
Her name is Lorraine Knox. The actress's name is Lorraine Knox.
Well, it's hard to even tell if that was really her voice because every single line of dialogue in this movie is recorded after the fact.
Yes.
Very bizarre to watch.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Very, very bizarre. It created an otherworldly feeling. Just to hear the audio in this one like particular plane of existence while all the characters were in a different one, it like sort of matched up. It was an American Giallo.
Yeah.
basically. Assuming that was her real voice, I think it's safe to say that actress Lorraine Knox was affecting a thick Russian accent.
Yeah.
To say things to her son like,
I tell you story.
yeah, all her shit was fucking like, oh man. It was straight up like a Yakov Smirnoff routine. It was like, it was very hard in Russia, no? But I give you letter that your father died for.
Your father find that Bolshevik money come from secret group. He was brave man. Your papa would be so proud. Son, go to university. It's very good.
The difficult family secret is that their father was like a professor who discovered a note in his office that revealed the name of the person who funded the October Revolution, the Bolshevik Revolution, which was a pretty foundational socialist revolution in Russia in the early 20th century. There is a secret conspiratorial funder of this entire revolution, as we know. And Adam's father apparently just found a note with this written on it, and then immediately there was a man standing behind him with a gun.
Yeah.
And he was shot to death in his office. To which I want to know, if they knew the note was there, why didn't they just get the note?
Yeah.
How come they don't make the whole note out of the black box?
What? Also, why didn't they just make it a suicide, like one of the like a Gary Webb situation,
Right.
like with 2 bullets to the head, he committed suicide.
Right. That's interesting you say that. I still think that something happens with these movies where the imagination ends at the idea that like a character's death could be left ambiguous. Like, even if it was like not that ambiguous, you know, just like there's just so all these filmmakers are obsessed with things being like, no, this is the way I see this story. And you will not come away with this with like any mistakes about my vision. You know, like they literally showed the shot of the man creeping up to him in the shadows and like pulling the trigger.
Yeah.
It's
like a shadow in the window.
Yeah, it was like a puppet theater. Very funny.
Right. It looked like, you know, in Home Alone where he scares the burglars off by like playing the music and having the blow up doll pretending to be his uncle.
Yeah.
It was like that.
Yeah, it was like that, but getting shot because you know who funded the Bolsheviks. And, you know...
Shouldn't have been Home Alone.
No, he really shouldn't have. We're treated to a lot of incredible footage of the October Revolution. There's a bit of a period piece element going on here.
Yeah. Regular Battleship Potemkin over here.
It was.
Did it seem like it was more slick in the first 20 minutes than the rest of the movie?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
But it still was like shitty kind of slick.
Sure.
Where it felt like they had just like had purchased CGI locations and stuff. It looked kind of like that Sky Captain in the World of Tomorrow movie.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. I liked that movie.
Yeah. But like early, you know, every scene is on a green screen.
Right.
Back when there was like a little bit of charm to that, if you could get past the Uncanny Valley level. But
yeah, I wonder how that would look to me now.
this looks very cheap, but at the same time like high budget for like a student film.
Yes.
Like they clearly had some like pre-rendered image of like the outside of a building when they were showing the guy get shot in the back of the head in his office, and you just see the silhouettes of the two people.
Right.
But like the silhouettes make them look like they're like 15 feet tall inside of the building.
I love shit like that. But you're right. I agree. Everything had this very like clinical CG element to it. It's hard for DIY filmmakers to get out of the like uncanny valley with CG stuff. Like we've seen this before in the Lammerman family. What was their insane film? Remember? Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
That movie where...
And Mayflower 2.
Yeah, Mayflower 2
not a
even
sequel,
more so.
That's the title.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that one even more so because it was like in space and like spaceships and stuff. And that one had kind of the same feeling as this, where it was like very clinical. You know, it didn't feel like warm at all. It didn't really feel like a labor of love, even though it was, just because everything looks so cold and computer-like. That was how I felt about the beginning of this movie. And again, I call that like tutorial filmmaking. It's like you have ability, but not that like spark in your heart, you know? It's to me, this movie reeked of that. But
it feels like AFI student.
Yeah.
Movie.
Yeah. How much do you think they spent on this movie? Honest question.
In gold standard or what?
Yeah.
Did they have to bring wheelbarrows full of money to the I don't know, the Final Cut Pro effects store in order to purchase the effects for this movie?
How much do you think it cost?
I don't know.
I have a
100,000?
number. I wonder if it's the same as yours.
100,000?
You think so?
I don't know. Why not?
I think $12,000.
But they had like cars and stuff. They had locations.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think they had parents.
Yeah,
Parents
sure.
with things they could use.
Yeah.
Where was this made? I mean, clearly they're tied to Detroit, Michigan in some way, because that's where the Knudsons are from.
Oh, okay.
So I wonder if it was filmed there or if it was filmed somewhere else.
Some of it did seem like it was shot in New York and not just like, you know, they had stock footage or whatever from New York. It seemed like they were actually there for a little bit of it.
I just feel like, okay, maybe not 100,000, but like 50, 60?
Well, holy shit. There's a fucking, sorry for swearing. There's a behind the scenes documentary about this.
Oh boy.
I can't believe we missed, called
We should've
Mr.
watched
Smith
that.
Goes to the Fed.
Oh boy, we should have watched
Behind the
that.
scenes look at the making of the movie Creed of Gold.
Teacher just caught us
We'll
not
be
doing
right
the reading.
back.
We'll be right back. No, I'm not watching that shit. God damn.
No, me either.
It would have been illuminating, but whatever. You know, they definitely spent a pretty penny. I'm sure they had some fucking like tax write-off thing. Like they were like, well, if we make the production company and then we bill to the production company, then blah blah blah. And they're
Yeah.
like, you know, I'm sure they know exactly what they're doing. These fucking people.
Filmed in
These
Detroit,
fucking
Indianapolis, and New York City.
Well, there you go. Oh, good call then. Well, these are the people who read the rule books. You know what I mean? And it's like you can't fault them for that. Like they're right. They know the rules. But it's just like you're so unromantic. You don't have an artist's
rules?
heart. Like you're not an artist. What did you say, Scott?
What rules?
The rules
There's no
of
rules.
all
God
this
makes
shit.
the
Well,
rules.
but you know, they read the tutorials of the software and they know all the fucking tax write-off shit.
It's very paint by numbers.
Very paint by numbers.
Yeah. No, totally.
You know they know all the tax write-off shit. They're like, well, if we film this in Indianapolis and we file like Form 103G, then that means we'll be able to claim the blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you're not an artist. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
A real artist would hire someone who knows that to do that shit for them so they could continue, you know, abusing their drug of choice and making their film where, you know, a bunch of people get naked for no reason. That's real art.
That sounds very paint by numbers to me too.
Well, at least that one you can like jack off to. I did not jack off even once to this movie.
No.
Well, that's ironic because our main character is named Adam Smith, who invented the invisible hand, which, as we all know, is what you do when you sit on your hand until it goes numb, and then you jack off.
In Adam
At least
Smith's
that's my understanding.
in Adam Smith's seminal work, The Wealth of Nations, Adam Smith, the namesake of our protagonist, who's also named Adam Smith, he wrote a book called An Inquiry into the Nature and Causes of the Wealth of Nations, where he proposed the theory of the invisible hand, which is, of course, when you sit on your hand until you can't feel it anymore, and then you jack off. It feels like someone else doing it for you. What if there was a cabal of men, just a few very powerful men, and when you were asleep, they came into your room and jacked you off?
Call that the Princeton handshake.
the Havenhurst handshake.
Yeah. The Havenhurst shuffle.
Well, that's the next very important piece of information about our main character. His name is literally Adam Smith, which is like so fucking libertarian. Not just because that's what he's called, but also because like the libertarians, they love allegory that just hits you in the fucking face.
Mm-hmm.
They're just obsessed with it.
It's really funny that like there were a lot of characters named shit like this in Alongside Night too. Right?
I believe so.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
They
I
just,
can't
like,
remember specifics.
name people after concepts,
Yeah.
which is very amusing to me. Like our hero, Brian Free Market.
You know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of The Pilgrim's Progress, which we like to criticize Christian movies that are like, it's actually based on The Pilgrim's Progress, because The Pilgrim's Progress, as we know, sucks ass. I'm sorry. Listen, I love old boring shit. I do. I love old boring shit. The fucking Pilgrim's Progress is like, oh, here's a character named Mr. Ne'er-do-well.
Yeah.
Like, Jesus Christ. Oh, let's not forget the Worldly Wise Man. The Worldly Wise Man.
And Christians will be like, yeah, this is better than Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. Because it's Christian, you see. And it's like, well, I wouldn't trust this worldly wise man. He seems a little worldly to me.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, come on.
Lou Cipher.
That is a step in the other direction. Like when we, in our favorite film, The Encounter, had a character named Officer DeVille. That's good. I don't have reason.
This is like the Vice hot or not thing
Yes,
that you like, can't
hot.
really make any rhyme or reason with.
Naming your devilish police officer character Officer DeVille, hot. Naming your capitalist teen protagonist Adam Smith, not. Sorry, it is so not hot.
Yeah, he should have been named like Lou Zayfair.
Yeah, that would have definitely been more romantic. Adam Smith, oh boy. But
Adam Smith, though, I thought was a pretty accurate portrayal of about probably about 20 to 30% of college students.
yeah.
In that, you see it on all sides of the end of the political spectrum.
Right.
You either get really into libertarianism and talk at women about it, or you get really into the people's history of the United States and talk at women about it.
But why Creative Gold is a fantasy movie is that he found a woman who liked being talked at about that.
He did. She liked to look at him right in his eyes, looked like he rubbed hot peppers all over them. Every time he stared into the camera.
Yeah, his eyes looked like Velma when she loses her glasses in Scooby-Doo. Yeah, and as you said, it did look like he had gone on the popular YouTube series Hot Ones and never used a napkin. He wasn't given a napkin. Adam Smith meets Kirsten, who is put off by the fact that he is not old money. He clearly, he's a scholarship case, And Kirsten is very interesting because her father sits on the board of governors of the Federal Reserve. Now, this will come in very handy information. This is very handy information because Adam and Kirsten get paired up for their term paper. It's going to be 60% of their money and banking class.
Yeah, run by a professor who literally starts his lecture by saying, the Federal Reserve is the greatest miracle to have ever occurred.
He does. He really does.
The Federal Reserve is the greatest miracle of the 20th century. The Federal Reserve has created wealth and has produced the highest standard of living the world has ever known.
Another tokenism of libertarian filmmaking is the professor who just says their opinion very sternly and loudly at the start of the first class of the fucking.
Yep.
That happened in last week's movie.
It sure did.
It's always the first thing.
Stand up if you believe in God.
It's so common in college to have the first thing said by the professor in the first class of the semester be whatever you're interested in, whatever your movie's going to be about.
Yeah.
That will be the first thing that they talk about.
Absolutely.
It's just good writing.
It's great writing. It gives you, hey, what is a film without conflict? Okay.
Yeah.
But here's the thing about Adam Smith. Adam Smith believes that the Federal Reserve might be corrupt. Now, what? I can't help in this moment but think of a filmmaker who's very dear to our hearts, who we reference on perhaps 33% of Boys Bible Study episodes.
Woody Allen.
Roman Polanski. And that is, of course, Neil Breen.
Yes.
Neil Breen, who does the quasi, I don't even know if I'd call him libertarian because his, he is, but his films are not really that politically coherent. But he takes this to its ultimate form by literally, like, the camera will go in and it's a room full of bankers and they say something like, I am a banker. I enjoy putting predatory interest rates on the loans that I give to my customers. I don't want them to pay it off. I want them to continually owe us money. And then Neil Breen will literally appear in the room and say, isn't that corrupt? And then the bankers will look at each other and say, who's this guy? He just does it. Creative Gold dances around that. You know, they don't take it all the way that Breen does. And the movie suffers because of it, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. They were very careful not to implicate all rich people or all people at the Federal Reserve or all, like, they were very, very deliberate in their being like, oh, you know, there's just a couple of bad people who are running the conspiracy. And even outright saying, like, one character saying, oh, so all rich people are evil. And then another character saying, no, just the people in the conspiracy were trying to trick the Bolsheviks into thinking that all rich people were evil.
Right.
Yeah, they did a no because in Russia they...
Yeah.
And then they carries on about, you know, obviously you're supposed to know that anything coming out of Russia is bad.
Exactly.
So, all rich people are just evil villains. With the exception of you, of course.
Of course.
No. In Russia, there was a group of people that wanted everyone to think that all rich people were evil. They gave control to the government and then redistributed the wealth. Once they had done that, they financially destroyed everyone who opposed them. If they didn't like your group or news organization, they would impose a special tax on you. After a while, they started collecting assets. And after 6 months, the government was so powerful that it would imprison anyone who stood in its way. The result was years of poverty and millions of innocent lives.
That was one of the most, the scene we're referencing is definitely one of the most important, like, texts in the movie, because you're right. The girl, Kirsten, she gets, like, mock offended on behalf of rich people because she's rich and that's, like, a part of her identity. You know, she's a good rich person. And Adam agrees with her. No, the premise of this movie is that it is very important for there to be rich people. There must be a disparity of wealth. You need rich people and you need poor people who are diametrically opposed to each other, because this is the sign of a healthy economy. Now,
just like you need, like, you know, a healthy body.
Right.
Some parts are in really good shape and other parts have, like, festering wounds on them. Any doctor will tell you that, you know, you could have great teeth, but maybe your, like, your toes are frostbitten and falling off. That's the sign of a healthy body.
Yeah.
It's balance.
That's a peak healthy body.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
There was a part, like, around, I don't know, maybe the middle of the movie too, where somebody said, do you think the people who control the money supply have too much power? And they're like, no.
It's so many times somebody...
Like, interesting query, but...
It's also funny that so many times somebody would be like, what we're uncovering is that a small group of powerful, wealthy men are controlling, they're controlling the governments around the world. And it's like, you needed to fucking like break into the Federal Reserve to figure this shit out.
Yeah. This is
like, how is that any different? And then like at the end, I mean, spoiler alert, they foil the conspiracy, but like they're like, oh, we got to thank you from the U.S. government for keeping billionaires out of the public.
Yup.
Keeping billionaires from controlling Washington.
And they got a finder's fee.
So insane.
They each got, what was it? They each got 5% of last year's loss as a finder's fee.
That is so
That is
crazy.
an insane libertarian fantasy. I don't even think that like that qualifies as libertarianism.
No.
That the end of your fantasy is to get thanked by the government for keeping it a public institution, and then also you get a 5% of last year's like taxes given back to you.
All you have to do is focus really hard on one report you had for your first class, and then you're set for life.
Yes, and then the information that the thesis of their paper that there might be just a few people who control the government in their own personal interests is so dangerous that there are people in sunglasses like chasing them. You know,
other 19-year-olds in sunglasses chasing.
That there are other 19-year-olds raiding their rooms and taking photos of them and plotting to kill them.
The global conspiracy was foiled by a trio of early 2000s Nickelodeon movie stars.
Yeah,
that are they're walking around like they're trying to get rid of the age of consent.
Yeah, now that's the report
That's
we
the
really want
libertarian
coming.
movie we
Yeah, for my next paper, for my
for my follow-up paper,
I will talk about differences in age of consents in different states. Yeah, it's incredible the conclusion that he's drawn to. That is why this is such an insane fantasy movie, because one, that this information is so dangerous that people are trying to kill them for truly, no exaggeration, like a high school level political analysis. Second of all, that when they uncovered this, they went all the way to the end goal. They uncovered the treasonous acts. Two impossible things happened. One, someone got arrested. Someone in government got arrested and tried and condemned for their crimes.
Yes.
And two, the government was happy.
Yeah, they're very pleased.
It's like if the kid in your class said, but teacher, you forgot to assign us the homework, and all the other kids like bought him pizza afterward.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, what a crazy oversight on our part. Thank you, Havenhurst freshmen.
Yeah, right. Yeah. It's also so funny because, at first a point of conflict in the movie is that Kirsten's father serves on the board of governors. Actually, just to back up a second, do you remember when it was insane that they found the names of the people who were on the Federal Reserve? They were like, we got it. We got the list of people who are in the Federal Reserve, when it's on Wikipedia. That's very
Well, it
publicly
wasn't
held
until
knowledge.
this movie came out.
Oh, that's
though.
a really good
It wasn't
point.
until this
I
movie
mean,
came
I
out.
myself did not Google it until after this movie came out. So
There you go.
It's very possible that the checks and balances of this movie instilled on American political life, I'm benefiting from now, and I'm taking them for granted. It's very possible, but there's some conflict early on because Kirsten Stanford is the descendant of Mr. Stanford. I don't remember his first name. I don't care. Who serves on the board of governors, which is one of the other sort of political checks and balances that works with the Federal Reserve. There's 7 people on the Fed, Fed chairs. There's 5 people on the board of governors. Maybe, if I'm wrong, I don't care. But they meet Mr. Stanford, and he's one of the good ones.
Yeah, I was really hoping for more of a guess who's coming to dinner, but your daughter brings Rand Paul.
Yeah,
home.
Your daughter brings Rand Paul to a Federal Reserve chairperson, just dinner night off. Adam puts his whole foot in his mouth by talking at dinner about how corrupt the Federal Reserve is. And, Mr. Stanford is sort of interested in his precociousness and is not necessarily offended by it. I, too, was hoping that the end of the movie would have to be Kirsten choosing between her own family and the anti-corruption of pure capitalism.
In that sense, this movie feels like it might have been somehow partially funded by the CIA or the Federal Reserve.
I like where you're going with this. Tell me more.
I mean, because, it's like a thing where it's like, the Federal Reserve the government would love for, people to weed out these bad actors.
Right. Concerned citizens just like yourself.
Yeah. It
that
also
make America
seems like,
great.
Yeah, you would be able to get money from somebody who serves in a high ranking position in government to make a movie like this because anybody with that much money is obviously completely fucking stupid.
That's a really good point, actually.
Whenever the army funds some movie or piece of media and it's always so shitty.
Yeah. So shitty, has absolutely no cultural impact whatsoever. It could be. I would not rule that out as a possibility. But no, there's absolutely no family conflict whatsoever. There's just this one evil banker named Wormwall.
Yes, he came from a long line of Irish immigrants who built walls out of worms.
It's a pretty good system, except for the fact that when it rains, even more worms come up and it gets really messy. So
yeah, you got to work in the rain. That's the worst part.
Yeah,
that's when the prime worms are
right.
When your foundation worms come out.
Right, it's very inconvenient.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this worm wall. Mr. Gorbachev.
Yeah, another guess who the bad guy is kind of name.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, who was the guy opposite him? That Ash, you said he acted like Jiminy Glick.
Oh fuck yeah!
He looked like Newt Gingrich got crossed with Jiminy Glick in the teleporter from The Fly.
He did.
Oh god, we'll have to.
But he was always like, "You can't do that." But you can't do that.
I wonder if it was Byron Tackett.
That could have been it.
It sounds like a name that
right.
the writer of this movie would give to a more evil than usual rich person.
Yeah.
Kirsten Stanford is the name of a good rich person, but Stuart Wormwall is the name of an evil rich person. So I feel like Byron Tackett is up there.
Yeah.
I could be wrong, but that's good enough for me.
Yeah, somewhere in between.
Right.
I'm trying to work on a Jiminy Glick impression right now. Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
Well, the main crux, the huge informational reveal of this film. So this film in the beginning leaves you hanging. What was on the piece of paper that killed Adam Smith's father in Russia?
It said, cease your useless inquiries.
Yeah, give up your inquiries, which are completely useless. Consider these words your final warning. They wonder, there was a name written on that piece of paper. And this was the person who funded the Bolshevik Revolution, which students of history might remember was a ploy to convince people that all rich people were bad. And this, of course, ushered in socialism in Russia. And then Stalin killed 30 million people at some point. I don't remember where the timeline of all this is. But, socialism was very popular. So was Stalin, even though Stalin, popular things aren't always right because Stalin was popular and he killed 30 million people.
Yeah.
That's something that
if Stalin told you to jump off a bridge, would you do that too?
I mean,
how convincingly does he say it?
That's a really good point.
Do you know that picture of Stalin when he's young?
Yeah,
do you actually think that's him? It's like a hot guy.
I've seen the picture. I am your average fucking just media consumer. I see the picture, I believe it.
Yeah.
I've never thought about that once until this moment. You are the type of thinker that Gramps from Gramps Go to College would celebrate. You're not afraid to look at the textbooks and say something doesn't look right here. As Gramps would say,
I just think that fucking Twitter leftists will find any reason to like validate touching themselves to
100%
former communist leaders.
100%. Yeah.
And I'm as left as you can get.
That's not true.
I know, but that's what everybody says.
More left
what they have to say.
Exactly. 100%.
I don't want to accuse of being, Republican or whatever.
Well, okay. I mean, I'll just go out.
Definitely
and say,
not that.
I will just come out and say I would not consider myself a leftist whatsoever. No. Other than the fact that I voted for Bernie Sanders. That's about the most left thing I ever did, if you could even call it
I can do.
Exactly. So I've got to say I'm skeptical of the idea that like I'm not.
That Stalin was a baddie.
No, I'm saying I would not be like the Bolshevik Revolution was a good thing necessarily. I can't say whether it was good or bad. It does not.
I think it was a good
whatsoever,
thing, given the times in Russia then.
But I mean, what it ushered in, it was certainly not all good things.
I mean, when has anything in history ever ushered in all good things?
That's a really good point. But
yeah,
this is just to say that
it was better than what was going on then.
Every
time there's people who fuck it up for everybody.
Also, like, we live in the United States. For all I know, like, Stalin was worse than what I heard, but for all I know, like, he was fine.
Exactly.
I mean?
No, exactly.
I don't fucking know.
I do not fucking know. I have never once been interested. Here's a really key important thing to know. I have never once been interested in this information, and I am still not interested. After seeing this movie, I'm still not interested in this information.
Yeah.
But here's something.
Like when they say Stalin killed 30 million people, what do they mean? Because like when they say Hitler killed 6 million in the Holocaust, I have a pretty clear idea of what that means.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, right, exactly.
But like 30 million people died while he was in charge?
Yeah, well, because a lot of times they'll like chalk that up to like, famines that they claim are caused by like government policies. That's like the knock against Mao and whatever.
Right,
is like, his, but that's like such a almost esoteric concept that you could like directly trace government policies to like, and then it's like how many fucking people have died because of American government
of
policies.
Course, because of American imperialism or whatever.
Basically, my whole reason for this rant is that people who shit all over America and then like embrace other like major superpowers are just fucking so dumb.
Yeah, they're writing,
they
writing
could both
edgy fan
be
fiction
fucking
for
bad.
themselves. 100%, absolutely. I will say again, I don't consider myself a leftist. I'm not looking forward to the communist revolution. I'm not a communist. That being said, when this movie is like, no, we need there to be a wealth disparity for society to run well, there's just a part of me in my heart that goes, it's something about that just doesn't sound good to me. I don't have the theory to back it up here. Okay, I don't.
Interesting that it's an airline pilot with 35 years of experience, one of the wealthiest people, would be saying something like this.
Yeah. I don't know.
It was like I was telling you when I was reading that article about the fucking like, oh, here's all the bad things about student loan forgiveness.
Right.
And I was like, this is kind of interesting. And then it was like, wait, I'm reading this on fucking Bloomberg.com, like who's clearly just copying and pasting every like fucking Twitter leftist being like, there's nothing to be happy about this.
Right. Yeah.
It's fishhook theory in action.
Totally.
And ladies and gentlemen, you're the big mouth Billy Bass.
My favorite take on that was that the military will have a tougher time recruiting with this.
That was an amazing post. Yeah, I saw that particular post. That was pretty incredible. The student loan thing was very funny. It actually sort of turned into a meme online of people being like, essentially the format became like some hipster is going to have to look at a railroad worker and say, I need 10,000 of your dollars. Like it's just like shit like that.
Yeah.
The funniest tweet,
that's how it works.
The best tweet I saw about this, which didn't honestly get a ton of traction, even though it sort of went viral on Twitter, was of course by Kevin Sorbo, who this is honestly one of my favorite posts of his he ever did, because like, I mean, we can try to analyze the levels of sincerity in this, but he says, I think what I'm trying to say is I think this could be a troll. I just think it's a genuinely good post. He says, so my body, my choice, ... except for when it comes to student loan debt. That's when someone else should step in.
What?
Yeah, can we just like parse that for a second?
I think I think I finally get it, that he's saying that it was your choice to go to college and take out a loan.
Oh.
And so because you chose to do that, now you think that the government should step in and like rectify your mistake or whatever.
Okay.
Which is the most generous reading of this tweet. That
Yeah,
you can give
I
to
agree.
Somebody.
It's written in a
This
very
is still
esoteric
a
way.
completely moronic take on this.
It's very funny. It's a great post.
I just feel bad for the loan companies. You know, we watched The Killing of a Chinese Bookie, and those guys just seem so
Imagine
sad.
how much. Julian and I just watched The Killing of a Chinese Bookie. Imagine how many Chinese bookies are going to have to die because of all the student loan debt that's being refunded this week.
Yeah.
What's next? They're going to give everyone back their Patreon money they spent.
Oh God, don't even joke about that.
Yeah,
that's when I'm gonna fucking. That's when we get our bug out bags and
yeah, we go
storm
giant.
Where's
giant
Patreon
beards.
headquarters?
Dude, it's Jack Conte of the band Pomplamoose. We fucking we all put on camo and we climb up the Pomplamoose
wear the horns
estate.
and be photographed at his desk in Patreon headquarters.
And we have to film it like a Pomplamoose style music video. It's like there's like many different screens of us, and we're like singing a parody of like 1, 2, 3, 4 by Feist, but it's about like getting our money back from Jack Conte. Well,
good God, that's the guy who started Patreon.
Yeah,
that
dude,
guy's
it's
like
the
a
guy from
billionaire.
Pomplamoose.
There's no
One of the
rhyme or
worst
reason.
bands of all time.
I mean, there you go. Not all rich people are bad. Some are very talented artists.
Okay, here's the thing. Jack Conte is a radical leftist who is redistributing wealth from hardworking railroad owners to the effete podcasting class.
So my body, my choice, except for when it comes to my Patreon feed.
Yeah.
It's so fun. I mean, God, I wish we hadn't brought this up because, like, it's hard for me not to think about because it makes zero sense to me that people will be mad that somebody is forgiven $10,000 for their loan.
Yeah,
because like
we're conditioned to be
like
angry.
Ted Cruz makes it sound like you're actually getting a check from somebody else. Like there's not just 10,000 left of your 70,000 loan that you have to pay off. Like you're getting $10,000. Somebody's showing up. A poor person is showing up at your door with all the cash they've ever had.
Right.
And saying you get this now.
Yeah. I mean, it goes without saying that like that loan money is generally like, you know, interest that's accrued. It's literally like money from nothing that is like came out of nowhere. The fact that you owe it, it was part of the agreement, I suppose, but like the money is like completely invented. Like you owe it for absolutely no labor or anything on on behalf of the company. And literally the old woman who's been, you know, working at the grocery store for 25 years is pulling out her pockets, and like a penny and a spider web comes out, and she has to walk to your doorstep and hand deliver it to you.
Yeah, the outrage that is getting a fraction of your predatory loan to an institution that is free in most other developed nations.
Yeah,
is really amusing.
Wait,
it's pretty amazing.
You're Kirsten Nelnet, the daughter of John Nelnet, the heir to the Nelnet fortune? That's one of the student loans companies. That's where I pay my student loans.
Personally, I am outraged because I paid off my student loans. So
really
unbelievable expenditure of money. I think it should have just gone to the military, just some tiny country somewhere I've never heard of, to put towards another golf course that some secret military app can play golf on.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted it to go to.
I actually got a pretty good loan from BOFA.
What's BOFA?
BOFA D's nuts. You still on the call?
Yeah.
Are we recording?
Yeah, we're recording.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, about the Federal Reserve. We're talking about the corruption of the Federal Reserve.
That's how our mics get
How
cut.
they just fucking print money. How it's I don't know. I don't care.
I don't care.
movie sucked.
I don't care.
Like it.
I frankly do not care, and this movie didn't convince me to care.
But it was vaguely Christian. Oh, I didn't
Money's
worry
just
about
That's a really
made
good
up.
point. That's a really good point. Wait, sorry, what did you say, Scott?
Just the money's made up. It's irrelevant.
I tend to think that, and maybe it's because I am playing the game wrong.
It's like a game, and I know how to play.
But it just seems to me that they made the rules. People made the rules to their own benefit, and the rules could be changed, and it would be fine.
Can somebody explain to me, in a succinct way, preferably,
Okay,
why fiat currency is something people are so upset about?
absolutely not. I can't do that.
Nope.
Am I supposed to have like gold ignots in my wallet? Can you imagine the back problems you would have?
Oh my god. Well, speaking of gold, and,
I think you should just have a useful good on you at all time. Like
yeah,
like
Whoa, you should see the
40 pounds of wheat.
memes I've been making lately.
yeah, I agree. I'm carrying iron ore, and what's great is
Or what?
in 2 turns this can be crafted into a steel bridge. I don't know if I explicitly said, but speaking of gold, the ancestor of the banker Wormwall is the one who funded the Bolshevik Revolution. Okay. And Wormwall has just been this ancestor. There's some insane plot about there was one train of silver that went to the Bolsheviks, and then 2 trains that went to a private bank in Denmark.
Yeah.
And then when the silver
One
prices
of them
went up,
left at
then-
6 p.m. and the other left at...
and on one of the tracks, there was just one person tied up, and on the other track, there were 5 people tied up. And it was a very strange circumstance all around. But Wormwall has just been riding high off this his whole life, and he's still corrupting the government. Anything else about this movie, Scott?
I mean, this movie is literally just the premise as written.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say no.
Yeah, I mean, I think, Julian was going to bring up that this is a Christian movie. One thing that I think is kind of interesting about this film is that it seems that Adam is against relative morality.
It's ruining everything.
Right, because that is something to bring up. So a character we have not brought up is Kirsten's roommate, who died in a car accident.
I forgot.
Can you believe it?
A car accident.
The first movie we've covered where somebody dies in a car
In a Christian
accident.
movie?
Was there any point to her dying in a car accident?
That's very interesting.
Yes. So here's what they're trying to fit in there. She had a talk with her roommate before she died saying, I don't think you should go do this with your boyfriend. I don't think it's wrong. But she explains to Adam that she didn't know why. She didn't know how to explain to her that it was wrong.
That what was wrong?
Going and drinking with her boyfriend.
Right.
Like going to where were they going to, like a cabin or something? This is what I assume.
Right.
I don't remember.
But also specifically, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I just want to add, but also specifically the fact that she was dating her boyfriend because he was rich.
Right.
Yeah, it was really weird.
Yeah. Which she also told her was wrong.
Right.
But that's the moral relativism thing, because then she's like, but I didn't know how to explain. And what they're trying to say in a roundabout way is that there is absolute right and wrong if you know who to believe, if you know where to look and read about it, which is whatever version of the Bible that
libertarians use,
which is whatever version of the Bible that Daniel Knudsen uses, or rather his father, who wrote the movie.
Well, a genuine question: why this whole movie is teens obsessed with playing the game of life that involves them cheating on term papers. Granted, the main character, Adam, he does say that cheating on term papers is wrong and, blah, blah, blah. But why, in all seriousness, in the logic of this movie, why is it bad to date a guy that you don't fully love because he has a cushy trust fund? Why is that not just a good setup for success in life?
It, especially in the context of this movie, because, well, first of all, it's wrong because I don't have a trust fund, and that eliminates me from the pool of
Yes, it does.
eligible bachelors. So there's one strike against you.
Yeah.
In the context of this movie, it was very confusing because she outright said, like, I am dating him for his trust fund, which was he got $20,000 a month, and then he was going to get the entire thing when he turned 30.
Jesus Christ.
I think, which was insane to imagine that you would need more than $20,000 a month every month for
from the ages of 18 to 30.
Yeah. Like, I can't even imagine what amount of money is waiting for you at the end of that you would like be like, well, now I'm finally rich.
Yes.
But it's strange because she was like, I explicitly like, I am dating this guy because he has a trust fund. And Kirsten was like, that is bad.
That is bad.
I am cheating on my term paper, which according to this conversation is the same thing.
Right.
And then the next scene that they talk about this, Kirsten keeps saying that he's just using you for
what?
For what?
We don't know. I guess for sex?
Yeah, but then
they don't know. They never even say that.
Yeah.
At all.
But then at the same time, the girl is like, yes, so what? I'm using him for his money.
Fair.
Should have been the end of the conversation.
Fair.
Yeah.
And the whole thing is like playing the game. These are kids who are hell-bent on, even though they're young, they're very like worldly and adult-like in the fact that they see that they will make sacrifices for setting up a good future for themselves. That's why they're precocious and unrealistic kids, because like obviously not every teen is like this, but you know, what is your romantic teenage years about in most media? It's about like having fun and falling in love and having new experiences. And like, isn't that the value of being young?
Yeah.
You know, every adult who's like rich or whatever, you know, looks back and they're like, oh, but you know, like I worked hard, but you know, I miss those days of summer romance or whatever.
Plus, Kirsten's got a lot of room to talk going for the fucking 29-year-old college freshman who has no personality other than that he Googles the Federal Reserve all day long.
But right. So what
and has the worst fashion sense?
Absolutely.
In the
God,
world.
he looks like shit. But what is like? I still don't get it. Why does God say what's the difference between marrying someone for their money and trying to get the right degree so you can get the best, you know, bang for your buck and get that high-powered position in the future? Like, what's the difference?
They're both just bangs for your buck.
Yeah. Like, you know, that's not the way I live my life. I find it very clinical and unromantic, to say the least. But the sin of that in this movie is so bad that she's punished by dying in a car accident. Which is like, that was so insane to me. And then, you know, he's like, well, this is why I can explain that's wrong, because God, because of church or whatever. It's like, well, what?
Yeah.
Why?
He doesn't even explain. The
No.
camera pans up to a cross on a building.
Yeah. He said that like man shouldn't make laws, like laws are based on morality and man should
Right.
not make morals. Like only God can make morals. which
Yeah.
is, like,
Yeah. There was a quote to that effect.
Yeah, they did this thing of being like, you got to play the game, then being like, there are no rules, and then being like, there's actually a really specific set of rules.
that God made, which, mind you, I hate to be the one to point out that the entire New Testament of the Bible is Jesus saying, sell everything you own, give it to the poor, wear
Yeah.
rags.
This was a movie made by somebody who really loves rules
Yup.
and bureaucracy, even though they are clearly libertarian in their projection. But at the end of the day, it's like they're fighting against people who are cheating at banking, and they like want the banks to follow the rules. They want the government to follow the rules.
Right.
They want you to follow the rules in your everyday life. but the rules are like completely arbitrary because it's like this naive understanding that like, oh, you know, the banks that follow the rules made by the government are doing a good job because, you know, those rules are there to keep everybody safe and happy.
Yep, to keep our country strong and to keep everyone safe and happy.
Yeah.
Right. But we need
They're basically suggesting there's one single evil rich person. That's what happens in the movie anyway.
Yeah.
Like there's other people who help the evil rich guy, but they're like nervous about it.
Absolutely.
They're doing it out of cowardice.
Absolutely. And mind you, the rules that are good create a wealth disparity where there are very rich and very poor people.
Yeah.
And this is important. And your station in life is very important. And you're doing your part by being there. All right. Creed of Gold, one of our, I don't know if I'd say favorite, but a very interesting type of Christian movie that has economic and political lessons as well as Christian moral ones. What did we think? Where does this one fall on the Boys Bible Study standard? By the way, the Boys Bible Study ratings are airtight. They're based on a finite amount of Bibles that are in our storage. And, you know, it's very important to have that kind of like concrete grounding for our ratings, because without that, you know, it would be very difficult to pin down the value of these movies. So with that in mind, how would we rate this film? You know, as for me, Ash Smith, the inventor of a sort of there's an economic law that I in my book, the Health of Nations, I propose an economic theory called the Cleveland Steamer, which basically says that like you can count all the different smokestacks in the city of Cleveland, and it sort of gives you a metric on the health of the United States economy. I'm gonna have to give this film Creed of Gold, which, by the way, I thought was a very logical, smart thinking, solid film that didn't play on my emotions. It played to my brain, and I loved that. The brain is the biggest erogenous zone on the human body. Many people don't know this.
I learned that from Dane Cook's wife, actually.
I learned that from those memes where it's like two people like reading books, and then their thought bubbles are linked, and it's like their brains having sex with each other.
Yeah.
But anyway, I have to give this perfect film 30 million out of 30 million people killed by Stalin. Doesn't matter how hot he was. He's a killer, folks. Hey, people wanted to fuck Ted Bundy as well.
That's true.
Yeah, that's what I think. Creed of Gold.
I'm going to give this a perfect 8 out of 8 for the laws of 8, the only laws that I follow from the film The Postman, starring Kevin Costner. You can look those up on your own time. Creed of Gold. It's a perfect representation of the libertarian fantasy that you would fall asleep to videos about the Federal Reserve autoplaying on YouTube and then wake up to a man dressed in black pointing a gun at you. Yeah, watch it. It's worth a watch, I think.
It's worth a watch.
That dork kid in this movie was so fucking annoying.
Oh,
like the
my
way
God.
they were like, we need a distraction. And then he just like goes and like walks around a corner or something, and a like assassin will follow him and just be like, where'd he go?
So dumb.
Yeah. Adam is literally going to his dorm room, and then his friend throws the guy off the scent by saying, can I get directions to the nearest party store?
Hey, look, I need help. You look like you know.
I need you.
Can you give me directions to the nearest party store?
A regular thing a college student says.
So
a regular
stupid.
party going college
The fact
student.
that an assassin would just stop to be like, geez, well, you know, I think I saw one around the corner over there.
Wait, what was I doing? Oh, nuts.
Oh, Wormwall's going to have my ass for this one.
Wormwall. There are a lot of good names in this movie.
Sure
A
will.
lot of important messages. Dared to ask the question, do you think the people who control the money supply have too much power? And then dared even further to say, nah. I'm going to have to give this 5% of last year's losses via the Federal Reserve to each of us.
Wow.
Thank you.
For watching Creed of Gold to completion and giving it a full review. Wait, that's a perfect score to us.
Exactly. It's a perfect score to us, and
okay,
that's all that matters.
I take it back. Yeah. You know what? You're right. I was going to redirect it to the Nudsons, but I take it back. We deserve it.
We deserve
for following the rules and watching the movie from start to finish.
We followed the arbitrary set of rules for how we structure a podcast episode. And we followed them to a T, I might add.
We sure did.
So we deserve it.
We do.
And to everyone who is listening, thank you so much. You've also put in the work, and you deserve your just reward, whether that's on earth or in heaven. And if it's your first time here, I strongly encourage you to go to boysbiblestudy.com, where you can find links to listen to our episodes anywhere you find your podcasts and subscribe to them. And also, if you really like what we do and you want to fund the revolution that redistributes wealth to us, please go to patreon.com/boysbiblestudy. If you subscribe for $5 a month or more, you get access to our bonus episodes. So that means you'll get new Boys Bible Study content every single week. Also, shout outs to our very special shady benefactors, a small cabal of people who are funding Boys Bible Study to suit their own political ends, of which we don't fully understand. Shout outs to our $20 tier patrons, Nicole, Marissa, Jeff, Jane, Kara, and Rhett. Thank you very much. Our outro music is Oh My God by Mary. From all of us here at Boys Bible Study, myself, Ash, my co-hosts, Scott and Julian, we would like to say, peace be with you.
And also with you.
Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. I feel your love in me, it's coming from within. Oh my God, my devotion is so unwavering. Divine emotions when you enter me. Every day